What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is MLS is back week, and what better time than right now for some power rankings update. Despite there being no games played, this is the best time to do power rankings. Tis the season for optimism, and tis the season to talk yourself into any signing you might not have heard of, but you looked up on transfer market and you went on YouTube and found some highlights and said, "Oh, this guy must be really good." So that's always some good fun. All these teams, honestly, before I get started, honest to God, every team in MLS, there's reason for optimism, right? Like, even the ones down the bottom, you could talk yourself into the best case scenario, right? Such as the level of parity in this league, such as the level of, how quickly things can turn around with the right signings, or how quickly things can fall apart with one or two injuries, right? Like, so I think this is a good time to do power rankings. And again, like the last time I did it, these aren't going to be hard and fast. Like, I'm going to put a number next to every team, but for the most part here, the tiers is what you want to pay attention to. Like, I find that to be more useful to just contextually add teams in. It was difficult to come up with this. Again, like, I can find myself talking myself into, 27 teams into the playoffs, right? Like, so it feels really weird. I'm going to sound optimistic, I think, about a few of the teams that are lower on this, and just know that is genuine. But again, 'tis the season for optimism. Without further ado, let's get into it. Let's kick it off with our first tier, our bottom tier. Rebuilding. This year for these three teams is just about foundational pieces moving forward, resetting the cap, and trying to find good news. Expectations are low. We're going to go 29 Toronto FC, 28 Austin FC, and 27 DC United. We'll start with Toronto. It is insane to me to keep on going to this, that a team with Insigne, Bernadeschi, and Osorio is last, but somebody has to be last. The defense is just too weak for me, right? Like, they have, the front office inherited a very, very bad cap situation. There are so many signings that were overpaid and didn't make sense. Like, Adama Diamante's still on the team, right? Like, Raul Petretta, I've taken my shots at him that I think he's straight up one of the worst left backs in the league. He's the highest paid left back in the league, or one of them, depending on new contracts. That's an issue. There's holes around this team, and I just, they're going to have to prove it at being like the reigning wooden spoon winners or losers, that they're not going to be that bad because they have a lot of the same pieces. New head coach, I think it's optimism for John Herdman. But look, like, this isn't a quick fix. This isn't a quick turnaround. They have a lot of work to do. There is an optimistic view. Everything clicks. Insigne and Bernadeschi are two of the best players on the field kind of at all times. And the defense holds up. Like, with the new signing, Kevin Long, 33 years old. It is just way too many ifs for me, man. That defensive unit is just too weak. Flores is their new defensive midfield signing. We'll see how he is, right? Like, there's no reason to suggest that he's going to not be good, but he's going to have a lot on his shoulders to turn this team around defensively. So, Toronto FC, 29, 28, Austin FC, it's kind of a similar story here. Sebastian Driussi is one of the best players in this league, and the team is still kind of languishing down this end. Rodolfo Borrell took over, and it was kind of clear, like, Toronto, he needed to just reset the cap situation, move on from some players. The attacking nucleus around Diego Rubio and Sebastian Driussi makes a lot of sense in theory. I really love Danny Pereira. Owen Wolf is one of my favorite young players in the league. Alex Ring, I think that he's kind of been miscast over the last couple of years. But outside of that, there's just way too many question marks for this team. John Gallagher, I'm sorry, I should add him to the really good portion of this roster. But the wingers are straight up subpar. Center back subpar and thin. Fullback depth is thin. Goalkeeper Brad Stuver is very good, but you can only do so much if you're giving up so many chances. I don't know. There's a lot to do with Austin FC. 27 DC United, same kind of concept as all three. Christian Benteke is I love watching him play. I'm a sucker for a target forward. I think that he's got great quality on top of his, like, brute force physical ability. But just too many question marks defensively. Like, they have a lot of options at center back, and it wouldn't shock me if one of them kind of presents themselves as, like, a really solid MLS level player as a partner of Steve Birnbaum. But again, there's just so many question marks. I wonder if they're going to play three at the back with Aaron Herrera as kind of like that, wide center back role that he did so well. That DC had so well with Andy Nahar in the past. But again, there's just way too many question marks. And as much as I really like Christian Benteke and Matthias Klick, they just don't have enough around them. They have too many defensive issues to be further up. So that's the bottom tier. Next tier, it's weird. I really do like these three teams, but they're 24, 25, and 26. Intriguing, but a few pieces away. 26, CF Montreal. 25, Chicago Fire. 24, Charlotte FC. We'll start with Montreal. I really love what they did this winter. Laurent Courtois, I've said it a few times here. I think that's a really good hire. Yankov, Kokoro, those are two very good signings as far as I can tell, right? I've talked to enough people who think that they're going to be good. They have a lot of good pieces, right? But not a lot of, like, elite talent. So that's That's one of the concerns that would leave them down here, is that I'm not sure if they have enough top end talent. I think Victor Wanyama, like, he was a top end talent under Wilfried Nancy, and then he was just dropped to the bench under Erlan Assad. I think he'll look much more like the good version of Victor Wanyama under Laurent Courtois. But, again, it's another question. We haven't seen it, right? How quickly will it come together? They didn't make the playoffs under Nancy's first year, and they were really good. They were a lot of fun that season. So it's not a failure if they don't make the playoffs this year, just because this is more about building for the future and what they can do. And again, aesthetically, they were not a lot of fun to watch last year, and they obviously did not get a ton of results. Again, it sounds counterproductive that I'm saying how much I like what they did this offseason and how good of a direction they're pointing while saying that they're 26th in power rankings. But just trust me, I do like the direction they're going. Another team that I like the direction they're going, Chicago Fire. I really like what they did this winter, but they had so much work to do. Hugo Kuipers comes in, $12 million plus another 2 in add-ons. Club record signing, one of the most expensive signings in league history. I don't have any doubt that he'll score goals if he gets the chances. Brian Gutierrez, great in the attack. Kellen Acosta, he's one of the guys that I think every single team would benefit by having him, because he could play different positions, different styles. He's just a really good MLS player. And again, if the Chicago, I think that was a really good signing. They needed just more professional dudes who you can rely on. There were so many inconsistencies or ups and downs in some other signings that they've had in the past. You know what you're getting with Kellen Acosta. Really, really good player at minimum. So that's good too for the culture, for the locker room. The concerns are defensively again. I think Chris Brady is awesome, but teenage goalkeeper, he turns 20 in March. But teenage goalkeepers have inconsistencies. They make mistakes. That's okay. But that's going to cost you some points, like Gaga Slonina did for them a couple years ago. I love that this is what they're doing, and they should be doing this, but that's a concern. Will they get enough service for Hugo Kuipers? I'm not sure. There aren't, traditional chance creators in this team. Like Brian Gutierrez thrives in transition more so than like against the set defense. Xherdan Shaqiri should be better against a set defense, but he's just, look, man, I've been waiting for it to show up for 2 years. I'm irrationally in favor of the Shaqiri signing, but I'm not kidding myself right now. Like, it would be silly to bank on this, right? Like, so they have some issues defensively. We'll see what happens at center back. But again, like, this is like these 3 teams in this group, I could see them really rising. So again, like it's kind of muddled down here, and there are genuine reasons to think that some of these teams will be better than kind of we're looking at in the preseason. But hey, somebody has to be 24, 25, 26. So 24, Charlotte FC. Dean Smith is looking like a really, really good hire. I know I've said it here before. Watching them play a little bit in preseason, and from the things I've heard from people around the group, I am really pleasantly surprised how quickly the foundation consistency, or maybe not consistency, but the foundation and structure is coming for a team that has so many new pieces and a new coaching staff. Dean Smith is looking like a very, very good hire. Nikola Petkovic, I think he's going to be one of the breakout players this season. Just a 20-year-old defensive midfielder, one-time Serbian international. I think he's just going to be really good and really useful for a team that is obviously going to be defending plenty. The issue here is top-end talent. But the good news is they have 2 DP spots. If I'm doing this video in a week and a half and they sign Luciano Rodriguez and somebody else, like, this is going to look a lot different. But there's, again, too many ifs, and you can't put them ahead of teams that currently have answers at their positions. Again, I'm very, very optimistic about Charlotte FC. It, again, sounds counterintuitive given that I have them at 24 here. But, like, really just a couple pieces away, and they have the room and the scouting ability to make those pieces happen. This next tier is called one signing away, and it's pretty self-explanatory. These teams are all kind of one signing away. 23 Minnesota United, 22 San Jose Earthquakes, 21 Sporting Kansas City, and 20 Portland Timbers. 23 Minnesota United, this signing is a coach, and I reported on Monday that the club are nearing a deal to sign Eric Ramsey, Manchester United assistant, and make him the youngest head coach in MLS history. He just turned 32 last week. They have a really good foundation in terms of Emmanuel Reynoso on his day is one of the best players in the league. Timu Pukki scores goals. That's what you need from a center forward. Robin Lod is back. He's one of the more underrated players in the league. They have a lot of good, not a ton of great outside of Reynoso, but Reynoso is so special that he makes everybody else better if you just kind of let him cook. The concerns here are Eric Ramsey and Khaled Al-Hamad, the new sporting director. The vision is higher tempo, more transition, more pressing, more youth. Like all these things, it takes time to adapt a roster that was predicated on possession and being heliocentric around Emmanuel Reynoso because he's so special. So the bad version is Pukki and Reynoso do not look anywhere near the best versions of themselves in transition, and the year turns into be a transition year, and it's all about building for the future. I could see that absolutely. I could also see a little bit of like Cincinnati in 2022. What Pat Noonan and Chris Albright did was when they came in and said, "Hey, Lucho Costa, this is where you were getting the ball in last year. You were receiving the ball in your midfield. This year, we want you closer to the goal. We want your first touch to be much closer to the goal, much more goal dangerous. We want you to just create goal scoring opportunities for yourself and for others. In addition, in trade for that, you need to run a little bit more defensively." Lucho Costa was awesome in 2022, MVP in 2023. Manuel Reynoso has that ability in him, right? He's got that talent. Let's see if he has that buy-in. 22 San Jose Earthquakes, another team with like a lot of really solid pieces, but they're still waiting on a DP. They're going to sign a DP 10 or second forward. Either way, it's a central attacking player, and it just depends on if it's going to be more of a natural goal scorer or more of a natural chance creator. I'm not sure. Like, I would probably lean towards chance creator because Amal Pellegrino came in as a winger, and that dude scores goals. He's like an inside forward. Jeremy Ebobisse is a consistent goal scorer in this league with chances, and Christian Espinoza upped his goal tally last year. Again, a decent amount of penalties, but he still scored goals. Goals are goals, man, right? Like, so I think that I would lean towards a more, traditional chance creator than a second forward, but if they get a killer second forward, I would love that idea too. But again, it's another if. Carlos Gruezo, Danielle in goal, those are two very good players. Rodriguez in defense, very good player. There's a couple more question marks in defense, but again, it's more about what does Amal Pellegrino look like at 33 years old, and can we really put them ahead of some of the other teams that are ahead of them? And I'm not sure at this moment. But again, it's all jumbled. I think we'll know a lot more after the first month. Number 21, Sporting Kansas City. The reason why they're this low for me is, again, they have a DP spot open, and I would hope that they use it. But, Peter Vermees said, obviously, it's not happening before the season starts in a few days. And the other one is just too much injury risk. Last season was the most healthy Alan Pulido has been since he came to Kansas City. And I don't know how many years before that. When he's healthy, they're really good. When he's unhealthy, they're not. And another player that really contributed positively last year after coming back from an injury is Ginda, and he's no longer here. If they get one injury to their center back group, they're screwed. If Nemanja Radoja gets hurt, I think they're screwed. There's just too much risk for me with this team that I don't think that they're deep enough in key positions. And look, like, if the starting defensive mid, starting center forward, and starting center back for any other team gets hurt, that's a big concern as well. But you look at Alan Pulido's injury history, you look at Radoja's age, you look at, Andreu Fontas' age, like, that's three big time injury bets that, I'm hedging here and putting him at 21. 20 Portland Timbers. When they get a DP number 9, we'll know a lot more about this team. The back line is a little light but strong. Again, there's injury risk for all these teams. Their backup left back, they still probably need to add another left back. I think that they're in the market to do so. But with Bravo injured, like, they're really light over there. If Kamal Miller gets hurt, they're going to be really light. Like, they could be really light in central defense. Good news is they brought in Kamal Miller. They brought in Maxime Crépeau. Those were the two biggest needs: an anchor center back and a very good goalkeeper. And they're in Juan David Mosquera. I love watching that guy play. I think that there's a way that they could play like a 3-5-2 and have Bravo and Mosquera as wingbacks more so than traditional fullbacks in a back four. We'll see. I think Phil Neville has options. I think he'll use those options. The other issue would be, what's the long-term plan behind Diego Chara at defensive midfield? Do they have enough ball winning in the midfield around Diego Chara? I think they'll be fine. But again, he turns 38 or 39, whatever this year. It's a fair question to ask. In attack, Evander, it can be very, very good. And if they hit the DP9 that I think that they're going to hit, it's going to be very good. But it's too many ifs to put them higher. Again, I think that the signing is going to be very exciting whenever they do make the signing, whenever they do finalize with whatever targets they're working through, just based on what I've heard. But if you're Phil Neville and the coaching staff, you're looking at your watch thinking, I wish that you made this signing 8 weeks ago when preseason started than right now. And it's just too many ifs. This next tier from 19 to 15 is labeled Need to See It. And I struggled really hard about whether I was going to move this tier up or not, because my job is to break transfer news. So naturally, I love to buy into the offseason hype, and I think all of these teams had pretty solid offseasons. So let's start with number 19, Colorado Rapids. My favorite offseason of the season, of the year. My favorite offseason of the offseason. Great sentence, Tom. You're the man. They brought in a lot of proven MLS players, led by Georgi Mihailovic, Zach Steffen, and Sam Vines. I think all three of those signings are going to hit. Zach Steffen has some injury issues, but again, I think that those are going to be three at least above average players at their positions, if not elite. And I think that's really smart. Well done by Colorado. I think that they're going to be much more cohesive than they were last year. This is a team that's going to play in transition. This is a team that signed players to play in transition, and they're going to play in transition. They're going to do that under Chris Armas. So again, as stupid as it sounds, not all teams do this. And hell, look at the Rapids last year. They had a lot of players that worked best in transition, and then Robin Fraser tried to play in possession. He tried to change, and the group around him wasn't change. He tried to change, and the group around him wasn't tailored to that style, and they were very, very bad. And then when Chris Little took over and did some of the basic transition stuff, they looked a little bit better. They're kind of going all in on that this year. At least it'll be a cohesive vision from top to bottom. Why that they're 19, and I had to keep challenging myself about don't put them higher, don't put them higher. I know you love the offseason, don't put them higher. Wait, make them prove it. They brought in Diak as a number 6. He didn't play very much in France. He played well in Turkey, and the Turkish league has had good comparisons to MLS. But still, he's a question mark at defensive mid, and that's a really important piece, particularly for this team with Connor Ronan next to him, who's a really good kind of Regista-type defensive midfielder, deep-lying playmaker. He's not a ball winner, so he needs a ball winner next to him. So Diak needs to be good. The other drawbacks are Rafael Navarro, who personally I think is a good signing. I don't put anything on him last year of him not being productive because the team was very bad, and there wasn't a lot of chance creation around him. But again, it's still a question mark. We haven't seen it. Kevin Cabral, for all of my optimism in Kevin Cabral, and I do believe it's going to be Kevin Cabral's season, I'm not stupid enough to think that just because I say it, it makes it true. Kevin Cabral has so many years of time in MLS in which he hasn't been that guy. I still think he can be that guy, but again, it'd be stupid to bank on him. So that's why Colorado number 19. Number 18, LA Galaxy. It's another team where I just love this attack. Gabriel Peck, Ricky Puch, and Joseph Pancil playing underneath Dejan Jovic. They could score a ton of goals. They're a little bit too naive for me. Their center back pairing might be 72 years old combined, depending on who's starting, right? If Jay Neal isn't starting, it's going to be Cáceres and Maya Yoshida. Again, I really like Yoshida. I do like Cáceres, but like the team has just given up way too many. Like down the stretch, they were giving up 3 goals a game last year. Like the attack is great. The problem was defense. And I think that they're going to play the same way because that's how Greg Vanney sees the game. And that's great. I want you to die on your hill if you're going to go down. But just from what we've seen last year, it's a lot to kind of forget. Like I think Mickey Yamane is a very good signing. I think Gaston Brugman is going to help a lot because they got much worse defensively when Gaston Brugman got hurt. But again, there's a few too many question marks here to move them up. But this is a team that I think has a pretty high ceiling because Joseph Pancil, Gabriel Peck, Ricky Puch, Daniel Jovic, they could be that good in attack. Number 17, NYCFC. Their spine is much more reliable than the Galaxy's. You go James Sands, Keaton Parks, Burke Risa, Thiago Martins. Like that core in defense is really good. Ilinic, really good right back. Santi Rodriguez, I really like him. Like maybe he's not the best to be like the best player on your team, but I still think he's a very, very good player. Hannes Wolf, we'll see how he looks in MLS. They have a ton of options in attack. That's where the question marks are, but I believe in Jovan Mijatovic, $8.5 million signing from Red Star Belgrade. He's an 18-year-old forward. It's unfair for me that the expectations personally I'm placing on him because I think he's going to be that good, but I think this kid is special, and I don't think he's going to be here for very long, and I think he's going to be able to hit the ground running. But again, the worry here is what they looked like last year under Nick Cushing is what they are, and it wasn't just a blip, and that would cost Nick Cushing his job, and they'll have to scramble during the year. And then the teenage attackers look like teenage attackers, right? Like there's not enough, I guess, consistency game in and game out to get goals. But again, the optimistic view, the positive view is this team is anchored by Sands, Parks, Rodriguez, Risa, and Martins, and any one of the 7 really talented young attackers step up on any game basis. So I really like NYCFC. Plus they have a lot of legs in that, like that'll be very useful throughout the long slog of the season. If they have an injury to 2 of their 3 expected starters across the front line, they're still going to have enough depth just because that's the way that they're built right now. So that's why I like NYCFC. 16 FC Dallas is another one where I've been burned by them last year. I thought they were going to take a leap. They actually took a step back. I still think they're going to take a leap again this year. Peter Musa is an awesome signing. Most important, like in addition to him being really good, I think, is Jesus Ferreira won't play as a 9 in a 4-3-3. And this offseason, they played a 3-5-2, and I really like that for this group. So if the front 3 by midseason, when Alan Velasco comes back, when the front 3 is Musa, Ferreira, and Velasco, that's elite. Straight up. Full stop. That's elite. Even right now, take out with Velasco being injured, Bernie Kamungo or Sebastian Lletget or Paul Ariel or however they do it, they have so many different options in this hack. And I think that they're going to be very good. Their biggest issue last year and the year before, to be fair, they didn't take control of the games that they dominated and turn it into 3 points. It'd be draws. Or they would be, okay, we need to switch to a 4-4-2 to throw the kitchen sink forward to try to get another goal, either to tie or to win. I think that they're going to turn that dominance into more points this year than last year. But again, we need to see it. Number 15, another team that burned me last year, New York Red Bulls. I was all in on the Dante Van Zier signing, and I am even more all in on Emil Forsberg signing this year. Forsberg, I had the pleasure of watching him a little bit in preseason. It took me 5 minutes to be like, this is the best player on the field. I've talked to other people who have watched him play, both with and against him this offseason. They've said the same thing. So the drawback here, I might just be looking at taking too much stock into a 60-minute sample size in preseason that I watched Emil Forsberg play. I'm ready to admit that might be wrong. But the positives here, they have a really good defense. And if Forsberg lifts the attack, hell, even if the attack is league average, if Forsberg can just be special sometimes, like Hani Mukhtar with Nashville, who we'll talk about soon, they're going to be really good. Like, that's the reason why they finished so low last year, is because the attack was just so bad. So I have high hopes for the Red Bulls. Again, everything about Dante Van Zier's profile, pedigree, and fit within this system says he should be good in MLS in this team. So I'm giving him a mulligan for the first year for off-the-field crap, for injuries, inconsistencies, everything else. If Van Zier can be second banana to Emil Forsberg, and Forsberg is indeed as good as I think he's going to be, they're going to be very good. We are officially in the top half, which seems a little crazy considering how many times I've said, I really like this team, about teams that I have in the bottom half of my power rankings. But whatever, here we are. This tier is just called solid. Just solid. It is what it is. Number 14, Nashville SC. Look, what can we say? It's the same as the past few years. Like, really good defensively, really high floor, really good with Hani Mukhtar, lower ceiling. I know Gary Smith has said that they want to be more proactive, more adventurous, more attacking this year. And I believe that he's being genuine. I don't think that he's lying. I think that that's what they're going to try. But they've said this a couple times before in the past. And we'll see, right? I really like Sam Sturridge as the partner to Hani Mukhtar. I like the idea of some of their other attack. Like Tyler Boyd gives them a different option and a different, I guess, way to play in the attack. I still think Shaq Moore should be performing much better than he has since he joined. Maybe that happens this year. Maybe it doesn't. We'll see. But like, look, it's a little boring just because we don't know what to say. But again, take a step back. Like, how many teams would kill for the last 4 years Nashville have had? You think a Chicago Fire fan would want this, right? Like, do you think, go on down the list. Like, they've been in the playoffs every year. They've been competitive. They made a run to the Leagues Cup final. Like, they've had special moments from Hani Mukhtar. And look, that doesn't mean to not ever ask for a team to get better and to take the next step, which they're trying to do. That's fair criticism. But, it's just easy for us to look at, like, what the developments are, where the, I guess, arrow is pointing. And I just want to be able to make sure to step back and be like, you know what, it's been a really good 4 years. And I think every single expansion, if you offered San Diego, you can have exactly the 4 years that Nashville had in their first 4 years. 13, St. Louis City. This is tough given how high they finished last year, and they're bringing back a whole lot of talent outside of Nico Gioacchini. They got better at fullbacks. They've added 2 really good players, and it's really important for the way this team plays to have attacking fullbacks, so I like that. But again, it's just the top end talent, right? Like the overperforming their expected goals, all that, nerd stuff. You gotta say it. I'm not sure exactly where they're going to stack up this year. I think that they are pretty comfortably a playoff team, and the West is pretty wide open. You could tell me that they'll finish first through ninth, and I think you could work me into any scenario here. So St. Louis, they're still in the market to add another attacker to replace Nico Gioacchini. I think that would be very, very useful. If Klaus, Lovin, and really just those two, honestly, if those 2 players are fit all season, they're going to be really good. They adapted very well when both of those players were out last season, better than I think a lot of other teams did. I was talking about Kansas City where, 2 years ago when Polito and Gadi Kinda were injured, they finished really low. And I was the first to say, yeah, without your two of your DPs, like, of course they struggled. I don't blame them. The way that St. Louis continued to play well and adapt how they played a little bit to fit the strengths of the roster when both Lovin and Klaus were out is extremely impressive. And that's one of the key reasons why I voted Bradley Carnell for Manager of the Year. I think they have one more signing. I think that'll help a lot. But for right now, again, I think that they're going to be solid. And let's see how high they can go. Number 12, the Houston Dynamo. Look, you could talk me into dropping them just because of Hector Herrera being injured. Maybe they overperformed last year. Julian Quinones is injured. Sebas Ferreira is still the center forward. I don't know. Like, those are a lot of question marks, but they won the Open Cup last year. They finished, they got to the conference finals in the West. I think it'd be super disingenuous if a pre-week one power rankings didn't have this team at least around the top 12, because they're bringing back so many players. They just re-signed Coco Carrasquilla to a new contract. Well done. Honestly, if I was in the front office, I would have secretly been hoping that no offer came and that, hey man, Coco, we tried to sell you, nothing came. How about this? You sign a new contract, you stay with us? That sounds like a good idea. Best case scenario, I think, if I was in the front office and drawing that one up. So, and well done for them for being proactive to getting that done, rather than letting there be a scenario where Coco Carrasquilla could run down his contract and seek options as a free agent. So, well done to Houston. They still have another signing to make. They have a U22 initiative slot open. That's their biggest chip left to play, and we'll see where it goes from there. 11, Real Salt Lake. This is another team that has another signing to make, but as constructed, they are very, very solid. They have Chicho Arango as a talisman up top. Diego Luna, we're all ready for the step up this season. He was very good towards the stretch, down the stretch last year. If he maintains that form, that'll be great. But we all kind of think he has another step to go, and that's awesome. Andres Gomez, I think, kind of got overlooked because of Diego Luna. Like, he's got these incredible physical tools, and he complements Luna on the other wing, just like with his dynamism, the way that he plays off the back shoulder, and Luna's the one cutting in. If they sign another DP as like a second striker, number 10, or, however Pablo Mastroeni wants to play, this team's going to be much better. Like Pablo Ruiz, I think he was underrated, and then how much they struggled without him immediately, I think really alerted a lot of people who maybe hadn't seen them play enough to be like, oh my God, like, yeah, Pablo Ruiz, you notice him in his absence. So they have a lot of talent all over the roster. I think that they're going to be really good. Pablo Mastroeni is a very good coach. He gets the most out of his team. So Real Salt Lake, they can still climb. They still have another signing they can make, but if nothing else happens, they're going to be good. Speaking of good, this tier is very creatively named Really Good. Number 10, Vancouver Whitecaps. 9, New England Revolution. 8, Philadelphia Union. We'll go with 10, Vancouver Whitecaps. They have a lot of talent. They have a lot of talent that is returning to the team. They have a lot of talent that makes sense together. Ryan Gauld, Pedro Vite, and Brian White as like your preferred attacking trio just makes a ton of sense together. Vanni Sartini playing this team the way they do. It took, 2022, they were kind of all over the place, right? But last year, I really liked what he did with this team. I think he's a good coach. I think that the roster makes a lot of sense. They still have one more signing to make. They need to bring in a right wing back, or can bring in a right wing back. But I think that's easier than, say, if they were missing a number 10 or a center forward, right? They have a lot of depth at center back, a lot of quality at center back. So the floor is pretty high for this team. But, the reason why that they're in the really good category and not just a solid team is I think that they've shown enough over the last couple of years that, like, it's super reasonable to expect them to take another step forward. And particularly how good they were in the second half of the season last year. Man, this team should be viewed with the expectations of being a top 10 team in the league, and that comes with the drawbacks of if you don't hit that, it's a failure and it's a disappointment. So again, they've earned these expectations, and let's see what they do. Number 9, New England Revolution. Again, this is just a team with a ton of first team talent, a ton of in-prime talent, and they have a ton of rising young talent. Like Caleb Porter, for whatever knocks that there have been on him, he's a proven winning coach in this league. With Portland, with Columbus, going back to his days at Akron, he's just a winning coach. They have Carlos Hill, one of the very best singular players in the league. They have Tomas Chancalay in the attack, Dylan Barrero as well. No matter, you could stick me up top and I could score 2 goals. And I suck, right? Particularly as a center forward. So it doesn't matter if it's Giacomo Veroni, Bobby Wood. Of course, that hurts their ceiling if neither of those are performing very well. But dude, again, like look at that attacking midfield trio. It's going to score so many goals. Esmir Bajracevic, oh man, I practiced it last video. No, apparently I wasn't ready this one. Esmir is their starting winger right now while Dylan Barrero's hurt. He's super exciting. I can't wait to see his breakout season. Noel Buck had his breakout season last year. He's still here. He's going to be in Europe at some day very soon. And he's still in the team. The center backs, very good. They have Brandon Bai coming back from an injury at some point during the season, but they traded for Nick Lima. They just have quality all over the place. If Henrik Rabas is just league average in goal, they're going to be very good. Number 8, Philadelphia Union. It's a little boring, and it's easy to kind of overlook them just because they didn't do a ton this winter, and they did the typical Philly Union thing. They signed a bunch of players none of us knew, and so we don't know what to make of it, right? But look at how many players that they're bringing back. Obviously, Jim Curtin's coming back. Elite head coach. 2 elite center backs. An elite goalkeeper. An elite defensive midfielder. Club captain center midfielder. A rising U.S. national center midfielder. Julian Carranza, Mikel Ura, Daniel Gazal. Just Kai Wagner, left back. Nathan Harriel, Bizo, right back. They're bringing back everybody who made this team so great over the last 5 years, more or less. Like, yeah, it's disappointing that maybe they didn't make another signing, but they still have Julian Carranza. I hope that they keep him, even if it means losing him for free at the end of the season. So we'll see what happens. Philadelphia Union going to be really good. It's a little bit boring to talk about. It's not as sexy as talking about the moves the Colorado Rapids made, or the Galaxy, or Dallas, or Red Bulls, or NYCFC. But you know what's really cool? 5-6 years of consistently being one of the best teams in the league, and that's what Philly will be again this year. Into the upper echelon here, this tier is called Outer Ring Contenders. Number 7, LAFC. Number 6, Atlanta United. Number 5, Seattle Sounders. We'll start with LAFC. Look, I know that they're losing a ton of minutes year over year from last year, but over the last 3 seasons, they've done this on the fly every year to really good success. They made back-to-back MLS Cup finals despite overturning the roster so much in most of the last transfer windows. They have Denny Bouang in attack. They brought in Edward Atuesta. It goes with Ilya Sanchez. That goes with Tim Tillman and Mateus Bogus. They still have Aaron Long and Jesus Murillo. They still have Ryan Hollingshead. And now they bring in Hugo Lloris as well. Look, there are question marks. There are reasons to worry because of all the change, everything else. But they still have Denny Bouanga, Kiki Oliveira. They still have a DP spot open. And from what I've been told, man, swinging big. Big names. That's kind of all the hints I can give. I would expect them to be in every conversation for really big European players who might come here in the summer. And I'll leave it at that. So, and again, they've earned the benefit of the doubt for how many times they've overturned the roster and done well. I'll say it again. I'm going to plea. I wish that Carlos Vela comes back. The longer it goes, the less likely it is. But we'll see, right? So, LAFC, I think that they've done enough to earn the benefit of the doubt. Number 6, Atlanta United. If you could tell me with 100% certainty right now, Thiago Almada will be here until MLS Cup, like, I would put them, I think, in the Apex contenders tier. I would move them up. This team is so good on paper. Stian Gregerson, I've talked to a few scouts who are like, dude, he's going to be great in this league. Like, he's really, really good. Orlando tried to sign him. A few other teams had him on their list. Really good signing by Atlanta. If anybody can be your Miles Robinson replacement, it'd be him. The attacking talent is elite around Thiago Almada, an MVP finalist, and Yorgos Giacomakis, a Golden Boot favorite for this year, and he was close last year, even though he missed some time. The wingers make a lot of sense. They finally have professional adult midfielders with Tristan Mjomba for his first full season, and Bartosz Slisz, a Poland international signing for $3.5 million in his prime. Garth Lagerwey has hit on Atlanta have hit on their last 10 signings, just coincidentally since Garth Lagerwey got here. Why would I expect any different for these two guys, right? And this all makes sense in terms of the spine is better, and that allows the fullbacks to do what they do best, which is attack. Brooks Lennon and Caleb Wiley love to get forward. With a double pivot of Bartosz Slisz and Tristan Mjomba, they'll both be able to go up at the same time and have, more certainty that they're both, one, going to keep the ball, and two, if they lose the ball, one of Mjomba or Slisz is going to be able to cover ground and win the ball back. So Atlanta United, I really love what they have. The only question mark is whether Thiago Almada is here all season or not. Number 5, Seattle Sounders. I almost put Atlanta ahead of them, but Seattle are bringing everybody back from last year except for Nicola Darrow. That matters. Danny Musovski, I think, is a really nice little signing. And Pedro de la Vega, people smarter than me are high on him, so I'll defer to them. And even if he doesn't hit, even if it takes him a little while to get into the team, to get in consistent form, they're going to be fine even if he doesn't play any minutes, if he doesn't give them any great minutes immediately. Again, this is the same starting 11 that they had against LAFC in the playoffs. And they thought that they were better than LAFC in that playoff game. The difference was Denny Bouanga. So that's the worry for Seattle, is that they're just going to be really good and maybe not enough top-end elite talent because they don't have a Bouanga. But Jordan Morris is really good. Christian Roldan is really good. Raul Ruiz-Diaz, I'll still believe in that guy until he can't walk anymore, right? Danny Musovski, they just have so much talent all over the field that, their floor, is so high. Finally, we are into our top tier, Apex contenders. Number 4, Orlando City. Number 3, Inter Miami. 2, FC Cincinnati. And 1, Columbus Crew. Number 4, Orlando. I went back and forth of which tier to have them in. I'm bringing them into Apex contenders because they're bringing back so many players from last year's incredible team. They overperformed a little bit in expected goals, but I think that they're better this year, so I'm putting them in the top tier. Luis Muriel is the best forward that they've ever had. And this is a team that's had Kyle Larin and Daryl Dike. I think he's going to be unreal in this league. And guess what? Their air quote backup forward is Duncan McGuire. They're going to be great in attack. Facundo Torres takes another step forward. I still believe in Martino Heda as a difference maker in this league. And even if he's not, they have Ivan Angulo. They have Nicola Darrow. They have a great double pivot. David Bricalo, the new center back they signed, I think he's going to be phenomenal in this league. And even if he's not, Robin Janssen was my vote for Defender of the Year last year. So that center back pairing, goalkeeper's really strong. All throughout the spine, they have both. They have a high floor in a lot of this talent, and they still have upside in a few of these guys. So I think that they have the perfect mix of dependability plus high-end upside talent. Orlando City, number 4. Keep it in Florida. Inter Miami, number 3. Look, Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, Sergio Busquets, Jordi Alba. I don't love them for the Shield just because it's a long slog, And they shouldn't be prioritizing winning Supporters Shield if it comes at the risk of some of these players. They're not, like, if Messi plays 25 games, I think that's a win, just because he'll be gone for Copa America. They'll probably sit him in some midweek games when they have to. They just need to keep him fresh for the tournaments, right? Like, and that's it is what it is. So I don't love them for Shield, but I think that every knockout tournament they're going to be among the favorites. Even Champions League, like Champions Cup, sorry. I know that they haven't looked great in preseason. I know Suarez in particular hasn't looked great. I don't really care. Like, they have all of these great players. And so what? They took, across the globe flights to play preseason games. I think they're going to be okay. Number 2, FC Cincinnati, reigning Supporters Shield winners. Again, they have a few question marks. They had a few change. Obviously, Brandon Vazquez is out. Alvaro Barrial has 1 foot out the door. There's other places that they need to replace. Junior Moreno, right wing back for Santiarias. But guess what? They still have reigning MVP Lucho Acosta, reigning defender of the year Matt Miazga. They brought in U.S. national team center back Miles Robinson, the best free agent on the market this offseason. They still have Aaron Pupenza, who is just phenomenal preseason. I can't wait to watch him again this year. I've talked to a couple of teams that looked into signing him before Cincy did, and we're like, dude, he's so good, but we were a little bit worried about the character stuff or whatever. And I think we've seen both of that on display, both the good and the bad with Aaron Pupenza. But I think he's going to lead forward in this league. You worry a little bit about him, but he's going to be great. And they still have Alvaro Barrial, but they brought in Luca Oriena. This is just going to be a great team. Like, you could put any 4 players around Lucho, Miazga, Robinson, Pupenza, Salentano, Obi Moboto, and they're going to be good. So Cincinnati, I don't have any concerns. Number 1, Columbus Crew. Again, it'd be disingenuous to put anybody else here because they're bringing back everybody but Julian Gressel from the key players from last year's team. And they have Wilfred Nancy, who is a cheat code. He gets the best out of everybody, right? Like, it's not fair in a salary cap league. Go back to the last 2 years of Montreal and the first year of Columbus. Every single attacker has had a career best season under Wilfred Nancy. So no matter what, he's going to get the best out of players. You can give him a B- player, and he makes him a B+ if he fits the system. And the front office is one of the best, I think the best front office in the league with how deep and how smart these guys are. So they hit on a lot of signings. I think Diego Rossi didn't show how good he can be last year. I think Wilfred Nancy has even said that in press conferences. So this team has another level to hit if Diego Rossi does hit another level, and Cucho Hernandez stays, obviously. There's a lot to love here. Columbus Crew, reigning MLS Cup champions. They get to start the season at number 1 in my power rankings. All right, that'll do it today. Little power rankings. I plan on doing this kind of once every month, give or take, whenever I feel like it, right? Who knows? But the league starts Wednesday night. I can't wait. We'll see how stupid this looks in the future. I might end up doing a, predictions video or whatever. Like, that's going to look really dumb. At least this one has enough nuance where I can say, well, I said this. That's what I meant. I don't know. So, yeah. Vamos on to the season. Cheers for watching. Here we go.